Russiagate, more like Watergate. The indictment of Michael Sussman sheds new light on the outrageous pre-election activities of Hillary Clinton's 2016 campaign, which have a familiar ring. CNN chief media reporter Brian Stelter hopped on the set of his Reliable Sources show this weekend and offered his take on special counsel John Durham's recent indictment of former Perkins Coie attorney Michael Sussman, calling Durham's probe a total bust. This was in the context of accusing other networks like Fox and OAN of a pattern of lie, rinse, repeat. I was sick last week and didn't get around to reading the Sussman case until Tuesday. I can't imagine Stelter has read it, since the whole thing is about complicity on his side of the media aisle and years of repeat errors and lies, including multiple editorial double-downs, even after a major story was publicly exposed as factually incorrect. A long list of press figures, from Stelter's own CNN colleague and shameless intelligence community spokesclown Natasha Bertrand to reporters from The New Yorker, Time, MSNBC, Fortune, The Financial Times, and especially Slate and The Atlantic, were witting or unwitting pawns in a scheme to sell the public on a transparently moronic hoax, i.e. that Donald Trump's campaign was communicating mysterious digital treason to Russia's Alpha Bank via a secret computer server. The story sounded absurd from the start and was instantly challenged by experts. Even outlets normally hostile to Donald Trump like the New York Times and the Washington Post correctly steered clear of it initially. However, plenty of other reporters fell for it and kept falling for it, including Stelter's own CNN. We've known this story was false since at least December 9, 2019, when Department of Justice Inspector General Michael Horowitz told us the FBI investigated whether there were cyber links between the Trump Organization and Alpha Bank, but it had concluded by early February 2017 that there were no such links. The supervisory intel analyst told us that he factored the Alpha Bank Trump server allegations into his assessment of Steele's reporting. Horowitz's conclusion was particularly embarrassing for CNN, which cited sources close to the investigation in March of 2017, well aware the FBI had already decided there was nothing there, according to Horowitz. To report the FBI investigation continues into the odd computer link. Moreover, when the original main source for the Alpha story, a computer expert who went by the name Tea Leaves, refused CNN's request for an interview for that piece, the network explained in apparent seriousness that fear has now silenced several of the computer scientists who first analyzed the data, as if a combo squad of Russian spies and Trump goons might put bullets in their heads. We find out from this indictment that those sources were terrified, all right, only not of Russians or Trump, but of being found out. In fact, the academics who were the sources for Franklin Foer's original October 31st, 2016 Slate article, was a Trump server communicating with Russia, were so concerned a nonsense allegation of secret Trump-Russia communication wouldn't pass a public smell test that one of them proposed faking the story to make them appear to communicate, literally using the word faking in an email. They ended up not going that far, but the research they did produce was so weak that one of them complained that they couldn't technically make any claims that would fly public scrutiny, even if reporters and others lived down to their expectations and proved not smart enough to refute our best-case scenario. The researcher's email went on in a line that summed up much of the Russiagate phenomenon. The only thing that drives us at this point is that we just do not like Trump. Folks, I am afraid we have tunnel vision. Time to regroup? The intrepid reporting heroes who bought this manure sack from these people were the ones to whom Rachel Maddow said, with a straight face, "We are blessed to have journalists as talented as you writing about this." Another press embarrassment came in the weeks preceding Election Day in 2016, when an employee of a U.S. investigative firm, reported to be Fusion GPS, the Clinton campaign's Oppo research firm, reached out to Reporter 2, which Eric Wimple of the Washington Post has already confirmed is the aforementioned Foer of Slate. The pertinent part of the indictment reads, on or about October 30th, 2016, an employee of the U.S. investigative firm, the investigative firm employee, forwarded another reporter, Reporter 2, a tweet which indicated that the FBI director had explosive information about Trump's ties to Russia. The investigative firm employee's email stated, "Time to hurry," suggesting that Reporter 2 should hurry to publish an article regarding the Russian Bank 1 allegations. In response, Reporter 2 emailed to the investigative firm employee a draft article regarding the Russian Bank 1 allegations, along with the cover message. Here's the first 2,500 words. Wimple asked Foer to explain what happened. His response: "If memory serves, it was a technical piece. I sent one long section that was about the community of computer scientists and their work to someone who I thought was knowledgeable to see if I had the thrust right. Unfortunately, they weren't of much help." In other words, Foer's idea of checking the technical aspects of a story alleging secret communication between Trump and Russia involved sending a 2,500-word chunk of his draft to Hillary Clinton's own hired opposition researchers. Despite these excellent folks not being of much help, Foer was somehow able to ruin his story the next day. And we really wonder why people don't trust the news media? The media angle here is bad, but there are bigger issues. Understanding their scope begins with the criminal allegation that Sussman lied to the FBI when he brought them the story of Trump's alleged communication with Alfa Bank. To begin with, Sussman supposedly told the FBI he was not doing work on the matter for any client, when in fact he was billing multiple clients for that labor, including the Clinton campaign. He also told them he'd been approached by multiple cyber experts about the story, when it appears Sussman himself went into the world in search of Oppo, not the other way around. The indictment explains the cyber experts were approached by a client of Sussman's, a U.S. technology company executive identified as Tech Executive 1, who asked the group to look for Trump-Russia connection. The complaint already described how Sussman enjoined Tech Executive 1 to help him organize research about Trump. The executive in turn reached out to multiple university-employed computer experts, variously described as Originator 1, Researcher 1, and Researcher 2, and asked them to analyze public and non-public internet data in search of a true story that would impeach Trump's claim that he had no connections to Russia apart from a failed casino and the Miss Universe pageant. Being able to provide evidence of anything that shows an attempt to behave badly in relation to this, he said, would mean the VIPs would be happy, a seeming reference to Sussman's high-profile clients in the Hillary Clinton campaign. About that true story line, remembering always that indictments are not proof, Tech Executive 1 is repeatedly shown in Durham's complaint entreating the academics to not worry too much about the truth part. At one point, after Sussman puts together a white paper on the Alpha Trump tale for presentation to both the FBI and the media, Tech Executive 1 forwards the draft to the academics in an email. Note the wink-like smiley face at the end. Please read as if you had no prior knowledge or involvement and you were handed this document as a security expert, not a DNS expert, and were asked, is this plausible as an explanation? Not to be able to say that this is, without doubt, fact, but to merely be plausible. Do not spend more than a short while on this. If you spend more than an hour, you have failed the assignment. Hopefully less. Smiley face. The indictment makes a conspicuous point of mentioning the long list of characters in and around the Clinton campaign who were privy to Sussman's Trump Alpha project. In one passage, Durham explains who's on an email chain about the subject dated September 15th, 2016, after Sussman had given the story to the New York Times and 4 days before Sussman would deliver it to the General Counsel of the FBI. On or about September 15th, 2016, Campaign Lawyer 1 exchanged emails with the Clinton campaign's campaign manager, communications director, and foreign policy advisor concerning the Russian Bank 1 allegations that Sussman had recently shared with Reporter 1. Campaign Lawyer 1 is Mark Elias, the general counsel for the Hillary Clinton campaign. Durham also lists former Clinton campaign manager and current Harvard fellow and House Majority PAC president Robbie Mook, former Clinton communications director and current Showtime The Circus co-host Jennifer Palmieri, and former Clinton foreign policy advisor and current national security advisor to Joe Biden, Jake Sullivan. The indictment also mentions extensive email correspondence with Fusion GPS, which eventually provided another white paper concerning purported ties between Russian Bank 1's parent company and the Russian government. This became part of the package Sussman delivered to the FBI General Counsel on September 19th in a hard copy that contained no date or author's name. Sussman allegedly didn't mention the Clinton campaign, the tech executive, the academics, or Fusion GPS, and told the FBI he was coming in as a good citizen and not as an advocate for any client. There's nothing in the indictment to say that any of these people were read in on the most damning communications with the Trump Alpha sources, in which they talked about things like the story not passing public scrutiny, or being a red herring that might be best ignored. There's no proof, in other words, that someone like Jake Sullivan knew Sussman was about to knowingly deliver a false story to the FBI. However, it is a reasonable inference that the Clinton campaign knew the FBI was not going to be told they were Sussman's client. If the campaign's general counsel, Elias, was looped into all of Sussman's activities, and all of these aforementioned people knew Sussman had both gone to the press and to the FBI with this story, I defy any of them to provide an innocent explanation for their failure to disclose that the Clinton campaign was the source of the story once it was made public. These people didn't just keep quiet about that fact, but actively lied to the public about it. The deception went all the way up to Hillary Clinton herself, who tweeted about the original report from Foer and Slate. Hillary's tweet, which is still up, this should tell people a lot, contains a lengthy statement from Sullivan. There are at least two glaring deceptions in Sullivan's statement. He says the alleged Trump-Russia link was discovered by journalists, when obviously it was the Clinton campaign that brought the bogus story to journalists. He also says, we can only assume that federal authorities will now explore this direct connection between Trump and Russia, when the campaign, of course, didn't need to assume anything, being fully aware that the FBI was already looking into the matter. They'd pulled the same shocked routine after the release of the first public story sourced to Christopher Steele, the September 23rd Yahoo report by Michael Isikoff alleging a secret Trump-Russia backchannel. Trump U.S. officials probe ties between Trump advisor and Kremlin. The Clinton-funded Steele, again by the way of Perkins Coie and Fusion GPS, were the real sources for the story, claiming that former Trump aide Carter Page had met with a Russian official who was believed by U.S. officials to have responsibility for intelligence collected by Russian agencies about the U.S. election. However, right after the Yahoo story came out, the Clinton campaign released a statement decrying the bombshell report about Trump's chilling ties to the Kremlin, as if hearing it for the first time. Sussman met with FBI General Counsel James Baker on September 19th. After that meeting, the FBI General Counsel met with the Assistant Director of the FBI's Counterintelligence Division. The General Counsel told the Assistant Director Sussman claimed not to be working on the issue for any client. The Assistant Director made the following contemporaneous notes. Michael Sussman said not doing this for any client. Represents DNC, Clinton Foundation, etc. It's been suggested that the case against Sussman is weak because his alleged crime was lying to the FBI, when the FBI knew full well he was working for the Clinton campaign. This does not exculpate Sussman. It inculpates the FBI for doing what it did throughout the Russiagate scandal, participating in the fiction that sources like Sussman or Christopher Steele were financed by someone other than the Clinton campaign. In the Steele case, remember, the FBI went so far as to conceal the Clinton campaign's role from the FISA court on at least 3 occasions. See page 260 of the Horowitz report. Director James Comey went as far as to publicly insist Steele's report was first funded by the Republicans, among many other examples. Russiagate was a daisy chain of deceptions. The Clinton campaign systematically planted phony stories about things like the Trump Alpha business, the P-tape blackmail tale, and Carter Page's supposed role as a Trump-Russia conduit. The FBI went along with the fiction that inquiries launched on these matters did not originate as paid research from the Clinton campaign, and a parade of news media figures were culpable either as dupes or witting participants in these frauds, which in the case of the Alpha stunt was executed in a hurry to effect a presidential election. The only thing preventing all of this from being thought of as a scaled-up version of Watergate is the continued refusal of institutional America to own up to the comparison. Dick Nixon's low-rent escapades, like the Canuck letter, distributing flyers offering free balloons for kiddies on behalf of Hubert Humphrey in black neighborhoods, or sending masses of pizzas to Ed Muskie's hotel, all paled in comparison to the massive, ongoing campaign of fake news stories, political sabotage, planted by Clinton campaign figures in 2016 and beyond. The fact that the accompanying program of illegal surveillance was affected by lying to obtain FISA authority instead of a third-rate burglary and a bug doesn't improve the situation. If the target had been anyone but Donald Trump, no one would bother even trying to deny how corrupt all this was, and continues to be. Maybe this is the last of Durham's indictments, and we won't see charges filed against the other people mentioned in this complaint. Still, the truth is what it is, and a large percentage of America already sees it, no matter how many TV hosts deceive themselves to the contrary. Thank you for listening to the audio of this article. Find more at taibbi.substack.com.